The following is a Goulash Media production. goulashmedia.net.
Welcome to the System is Down.
What's up, Downers? Welcome back to the least comfortable show on the web, The System is Down. My name is Dan Smots, and if you're new here, this is a place where we just have conversations about all things uncomfortable, namely, but not limited to, conspiracies, politics, and religion. If you're not new here, then you're aware that the last few episodes that we've had in last year during the holiday season, they were not uncomfortable conversations. We had a bunch of fun conversations, actually. And I told you that come the beginning of the year, I would be jumping back into the swing of things and all of the delightful discomfort that you've come to know and enjoy. So today is no exception, as we definitely dug into the conspiracies and the religious stuff very deeply on a topic that is pretty controversial in both of those areas, actually. And it was a fantastic and really fun conversation, so I want to get to that as quickly as possible. But before we do, gotta let you know, I've decided that for the time being, I'm going to leave the Downers Club at $1 a month to anybody until further notice. I know I said that that promo was going to end at the beginning of the year, and this might sound like a bait and switch, but hey, you should probably see it more as just a gifting to you, because, I'm going to make this stuff whether you guys listen to it or not, and if you guys want to pay as little as $1, you can have all the bonus content. So we typically do 2 to 3, sometimes 4 and 5 bonus episodes a week, which is a ridiculous amount of just ridiculous content. Craig, my brother, and I often do recaps in the news. We call that BTSBS, and we talk about stuff that we're doing behind the scenes. I do every Wednesday with Ramzo Martinez a show called Would You Rather Wednesday, which is just where we play a absurd game of Would You Rather, and that's a nice, fun, short episode. We also do full episode movie reviews that we call Rotten Potatoes, which is always fun. And a lot of times when I do one-on-one interviews, I try to record a little bit of bonus content with my guests and get even weirder, which did happen today. We recorded an entire bonus hour that got completely off the rails from the craziness that this conversation already was. So if you would like to get all that bonus content and you would like to support the show, you can join the Downers Club by going to tsidpod.com/support, and that will help us build this show bigger and better for your listening and viewing pleasure. If you're just listening to the audio of this podcast, then you may or may not have seen that I did a video version of this episode, which, if you're watching on YouTube, you know that by now. But as you'll note, my video quality is not great, and one thing that your generous contributions are going to go towards is making better, clearer, cleaner videos and upping that game. So thank you all who are members of the Downers Club. Speaking of which, we had several new members join this week, and those generous and beautiful people are Carol Schiffler, Nathan Sipes, and Lee Latornu. I think that's how you pronounce your last name. I hope so. We also had Justin Zielinski, who was already a member of the Downers Club. He upped his amount from $1 to $5, just because he is that good of a person. So thank you guys all so much for supporting the show. And I promise I will do my very best to use your money wisely to make this show more enjoyable and more entertaining for you guys. So again, if you would like to have your name read on this podcast and you would like to become a member of the Downers Club, you can do so by going to tsidpod.com/support. Also, if you're not already a member, please go join the System is Down forum. It is a Facebook closed group forum where we just talk about all sorts of nonsense, all these uncomfortable conversations we dig deeper into, and just whatever comes up. It's a very polite and civil environment where people treat people like people, and it all happens within the world of Facebook. Imagine that. And my guest in today's conversation is actually a member of that forum also, so if you listen to this conversation and you would like to take that further, if you have questions for him, I'm sure if you tagged him in a post, he would be happy to converse with you on that and answer some of your questions. So if you would like to be a member of that, you can do so by going to tsidpod.com/forum, or just go to Facebook and type in the System is Down forum and requesting to join. And again, that is a closed group, so I'll have to approve you, but if you look like a human, that will not be any problem, and I'll get you right in there. So, blah, blah, blah. Who cares about all that? Let's get into this awesome conversation that I had with TruthSeekah. I think you're really going to enjoy it. I personally did, and it was very informative to me. So, without further ado, let's get weird. My guest today is podcaster and esoteric spiritual hip-hop artist, TruthSeekah. Truth, how's it going, man?
Hey, man. Thanks for having me on the show.
Glad to have you. So, you hit me up wanting to come on, and I checked out some of your stuff, and just a vast array of stuff that is over my head personally. It's a lot of stuff that I don't understand, but it definitely is interesting, and I wanted to have you on for sure to dig into some of your experiences. Now, I mean, you're a faith-based hip-hop artist, and a good one at that. Somebody looking at your music and your videos and that type of thing, it only can take them 5 seconds to realize that you're not your typical Christian or spiritual hip hop artist, such as KJ52 or something like that.
Oh, yeah.
So, tell me a little bit about yourself and your background and, where you come from.
Yeah. So at this point, I don't really consider myself a gospel artist or a Christian rapper, which I was. I started out doing it
Sure.
back in like 2004. Started doing hip hop music then, and back and forth in some Christian metal bands as well, doing vocals, playing bass, screamo stuff.
Very cool.
So I started out there till about maybe 2011, started going deeper in my research and my studies and studying the scriptures and some watching documentaries and looking into some of the books that were taken out of the Bible. And it really just opened up a whole new realm of study for me to kind of piece some things together and connect some dots. So about 2011, 2012, when that whole Mayan calendar thing started happening, there was a lot of people who started gravitating towards ancient aliens and documentaries like Comatica and just a bunch of them on YouTube. And I got into a lot of that stuff, started studying, started having some weird encounters with my studying and stargazing and things like that, and wanted to know what was really going on, and had some experiences that kind of took me to the next level. And I guess as a psalmist or as a writer, like, you want to put that stuff in your music, whatever you're studying, whatever you're going through. And even before some of the deep esoteric stuff started seeping into the music, there was the political stuff, getting into Alex Jones and InfoWars and figuring out about the Illuminati. So I would throw stuff in the Christian rap music about that stuff, and it would seem out the box. And then just kind of went head over heels with everything I was studying and took the music to a totally different level with just the sound of it, and then the creative aspect, because with all this studying brought so many more topics that I could tie into the music. And as a Christian, as someone who studies the scripture, like it opens up a whole new realm of vocabulary with many words for one thing. So if we're maybe talking about angels, we don't just have to say, I seen an angel. We can use, there's many types of angels in the Bible: the seraphim, Raphaim, the cherubim, the watchers, the holy ones. There's so many names. And then it just opens up this big realm of creativity for me. So it was like a whole new page turning over, and opened up to a wider fan base, kept a lot of the Christian audience, but then again got crucified by even, a bigger majority. But it opened up to a wider range of fan base as well. So that's been a interesting journey. So that's pretty much where I'm at, from transitioning from KJ52 Master P type rapper to where I am now with the spiritual esoteric stuff.
Sure, absolutely. Yeah, that was actually my next question. What has the Christian community, how has their response been? Because you dig a lot into like the third eye, like the pineal gland stuff, and just dealing with things that a lot of Christians not only shy away from, but they see as bad things. So, what has their response been to that type of thing?
A lot of them, I guess early on, I wanted to venture into this stuff and put it in my music to think that it would open up dialogue with some of my Christian peers, and because we all like to study, we all study the scriptures, and many of us are even into the books that were taken out of the Bible, just Enoch and Jasher and Maccabees and things like that, studying that stuff. So I figured it would open up conversation, and it really didn't. So I found out that conversation was being had, but I wasn't a part of the equation, right? It was just about me and not with me. So I mean, that's kind of how it is in the church realm. You know, there's a lot of gossiping and things like that. But I guess that essentially what I brought to the table was kind of like a threat, because it was different doctrine or different belief systems or whatever the case is. So even though I took it personal going through it, because I was friends with a lot of these people, I was in ministry with people, so I took it personal. But looking back, like, they were scared and they were just trying to protect the flock, is what we kind of coined the phrase now, you know. So if somebody's talking about the Illuminati, and some of my lyrics were just straight up weird. Like I would say stuff for shock value, even though I meant it. Like it's stuff that's near and dear to my heart, but I would just throw it out there, like phrases like you know, talking about I'm a part of the Luciferians, I'm a part of the Illuminati, things like that. So I would do verses and talk about that stuff, and that would freak people out. They think that you're a devil worshiper or something like that. But when I'm using the terms like that, all the studying is studying the root words and what these words really mean. The true definition of even Luciferian just simply means a light bringer, one who is a bringer of light. And so from a Christian perspective, it's like, okay, we have the light of Christ. We are the true light bringers in the world. And there's so many scriptures about how we are illuminated with the light of Christ. And even the early Christians were called the illuminated ones, or the Illuminati. So going back to the origins of these words, man, I wanted to like redeem the words and kind of take them back for what they truly meant, not as something that's demonic or anti-Christ or anti-God and stuff. So with using that stuff, bringing it to the table, it definitely brought, you know, a target with it as well.
Right. Absolutely. So, which, I mean, that was kind of your goal, right? A little bit of shock value, trying to stir up some crap with them.
Essentially. I mean, now just looking at it, it definitely sells. Controversy sells. Like, you know, even in the church realms and stuff, you can talk about, hey, let's have a Bible study. Let's study the scriptures and pray for one another. And you may get a couple people show up. But if we advertise it and say, hey, we're going to be contacting angels, the glory of God's going to show up. People, you know, angel feathers are going to be manifested. And there's a bunch of people who are into that realm, and they get numbers, and it's fringe stuff. But people are into that. And even when I came into the faith, I went to a Bible study. Somebody talked me into going to. I didn't want to go to a regular Bible study, but they told me that a prophet was going to be there. And I said, okay, what's a prophet? He says a prophet is pretty much like a Christian psychic. I said, okay, you got my attention now. I'm going to go check this out. So I went to a Bible study where this guy they called a prophet was there. And I gave my life to Christ in, what was that, 1998. And my life hasn't been the same since. But, you know, it's with the fringe stuff. It's the extra stuff. You know, you got to kind of package it right, you know, and it definitely sells. We look at Alex Jones with shock value, even Trump. I mean, look at Trump. You know what I'm saying? The shock value, dude, you know?
Definitely keeps him in the media for sure. Yeah. Now, not even just the Christian community, like even the conspiracy community that you're a bit of a part of. I mean, even they are split on some of these issues, like whether or not we should be tapping into these out-of-body experiences or DMT and stuff like that. Have you gotten pushback there too, or?
Yeah. So it's kind of one and the same. I mean, even I think a lot of the conspiracy people now are Christians. There's a big movement of Christians who are into the conspiracy stuff, or even there's like a fringe movement. They call themselves the Watchmen type deal, where they're like heresy hunters and they like to point out stuff. And a lot of them are into the Alex Jones stuff, the right wing media. It's sexy now. Like back when we were getting into it early on, like, it was when we were talking about the Illuminati in churches, even like we were looked at as crazy people. Now the pastor can do a sermon on the Illuminati now, and the pastor
Right.
can do a sermon on this stuff that we're bringing to the table. It's just so much how we've just always been ahead of the time with the research, and then it seeps into the church. But I find out mostly the church is always behind a few years on what's going on in the world anyway, especially art and creativity and music is concerned, so I come from that realm, so that's why I reference it. But the conspiracy people, I mean, there's a lot of Christians in the movement, so they definitely would throw red flags to mushrooms or DMT or opening up portals in your mind to the
Sure.
devil. I mean, there's always just that sense of caution there, and there should be, though. There should be.
Sure. Yeah, let's get into that a little bit more. Give me your experience with that type of thing, just the enlightenment, I suppose. I don't know exactly what you'd call it, but just some of the esoteric stuff that you're digging into. Like, what's your experience with that?
So you're talking about psychedelics or?
Well, let's start with just give kind of an overview, really, of the whole third eye idea, because I know a lot of listeners don't even know what that would mean.
Definitely.
And actually looking into your stuff, I had heard of it, but I hadn't really dug into it either. So there's a lot there.
Yeah, essentially, I mean, there's anything that you Google, you're going to find. This is the thing with everything. You're going to find pros and cons on it. You're going to find people doing testimonial videos on how they came out of it and how it's demonic and you should never tamper with it. And this is for the third eye, but this is for the Mormon church. This is for online chat rooms that they were a part of. Hey, stay away from these guys. And then you're going to find testimonies on the other side where people are vouching for it. Hey, this is beautiful. It changed my life. This means the world to me, and I want to share this with you. So approaching it from that perspective, this is definitely with the third eye. You're going to hear stuff on both sides and people who claim to be experts and people who are just going off of a YouTube video, right?
Right.
So
even things as minimal as Coke or Pepsi. I mean, you're going to have people on both sides either way, and somebody's going to swear by one, and other people are going to swear that they're crazy. So
exactly. So that's why you just got to pick your battles wisely and don't take things personal, because people are just. I mean, people have their opinions, and you don't have to entertain everything either. So when it comes to the third eye, simply put, for me, it's just the gateway that we're able to see into the spirit realm or communicate or have spiritual encounters. Like your third eye, you're able to see into the spirit. And so whether it's having encounters as a little kid, seeing ghosts, going into the dream state, having out-of-body experiences, like everything is done kind of through that third eye pineal gland. And so there's techniques to what they say, open it. I don't really vouch for the opening of the third eye, like it's something that's closed. Obviously, when we're born, children are more sensitive to the spirit realm and seeing angels and having just being more childlike. And even Jesus in the Bible says that we're supposed to approach the kingdom of heaven, which is something that's tangible around us as these children. We're supposed to approach it like children. And so it's something that we're able to see, we're able to interact with. And I guess maybe as you get up in years, they call what they call having your pineal gland calcified, where it shuts from ingesting food and media and all kind of stuff. It just depends on who you ask, and they'll tell you there's different things that close your third eye, and whether it's the radio stations or signals or whatever, the educational system. And so I don't think there's techniques to do to open the third eye, but there are techniques that we can do to tap into the spirit realm to be able to use it better and be able to almost initiate it like it's a muscle and it's just dormant. If you don't use it, it's just going to atrophy. And so you can do it like that. It's not like, because there's so many stuff out there about opening up the third eye is dangerous. So you don't want to open the third eye, and the third eye should always be open. You should be attuned and have a sense of discernment and all of that stuff. These spiritual abilities that are mentioned of in the Bible from start to finish are activated through the third eye pineal gland, having your mind's eye being single and your whole body being full of light. And so it's something beautiful for me. It's nothing scary. It's not like, but it's just with everything. It's the third eye, meditation, prayer, chanting, fasting. They're tools there, and you can use them for good or evil. if you're opening up your third eye because you want to contact demons so that you can sick them on your teachers or your family members or whatever the case is, then it's being used for evil or malicious intent. Or if you're trying to do these things for to help the world and to become a better person, be in tune more with the spirit world, who you are, the true nature of yourself as a human being and your higher self, then I would say that those are for good reasons. So all of this stuff that I put in my music is essentially tools, and they could be used for good or bad reasons.
Sure. Yeah, and I like I said, I've done minimal digging into this, and I'm not totally sure where I land on it, whether it's good or bad. I think there's arguments to be made on both sides for sure, but it's strange to me that people are so against it, against accessing it through natural ways, a thing that is in your body that your body creates. That just blows my mind.
That's what threw me off. Yeah, that's what threw me off, because when I was first getting into a lot of this stuff, it was all by natural means. There was no tobacco, there was no snuff, there was no mushrooms or anything like that. So I mean, I wasn't getting into anything. Everything was natural. It's like, everything that your body is fearfully and wonderfully made, as the scripture says. And and it gets really deep. And if we look back at the biblical disciples and see the power and authority and the miracles that they were walking in, like, they knew who they were. They knew how to access these realms. And so it's something that's beautiful, and it's not to be feared, but it seems scary. But I had a lot of Christians come to me and say, don't empty out your mind. If you empty out your mind, demons will come in. And I did a whole video on this, just like reassuring Christians that no, like, it's okay, especially in a place of prayer, like a place where you're getting alone by yourself and wanting to talk to God about your struggles, what you're facing, what you're going through, your life, your worries, and just spending time in the presence of God. I mean, that should be it should be something that every believer does. Yeah. And it's commanded throughout the scriptures to do so. When you go to that place, you should clear your mind. You shouldn't be worried about playing video games and worried about where you're going for lunch, to go and see a movie this evening and having all this stuff. No. And I'm telling you, like, I've seen breakthrough early on when I would go into the prayer closet and maybe have some soft meditation music on or some soft ambient worship music and try to clear my mind, because it's hard. Yeah. 21st, you know what I'm saying? Yeah. Century Christian, who's got all of this stuff. We got social media. We're sitting here scrolling our thumbs on social media all day.
Got all these annoying podcasts.
Yeah, all kind of stuff. It's hard to get stuff out of your head. So it's an art to it to sit down, and especially, if you're having a conversation with a friend, if you're hanging out with somebody, and this dude, he's just thinking about what he's going to hang out with his other friend. Yeah, I'm chilling with you right now, or we're doing this podcast, but I'm fixing to go watch a movie, and I'm looking at my watch, like, I got to go, bro. You know what I'm saying? Right. So there's not this connection that takes place. So when you're able to do that, clear your mind out and focus on God, focus on your breathing, things start to happen, man. And I think that's a story for many people who have these awesome encounters in their rooms with, like, just during prayer. And that's the Christianity I came up in, though. Like, people would do that for hours. They would lock themselves in their room and they would pray. And then when they came out, things would happen. When they prayed for people, stuff happened. People got saved. People would begin to cry and begin to be convicted of sin. All types of miracle. And the only thing they did differently is they had an intimate prayer life where they would go away for an hour to, and I know that's a long time, but yeah, these guys walked in power and authority, and it was beautiful. And when I came into the faith, that was normal for us. You know what I'm saying? So that's why it starts there. All of it starts there.
Sure. Yeah. And another thing strange to me with the whole Christian fear of this is that Christians typically really encourage, get alone, be with God, shut down all the noise, all the distractions, just get some alone time and listen to God, clear out your mind. But don't call it meditation. Don't clear out your mind, but clear out your mind in the way that we're saying. So just a strange
it's just
fine line.
Disconnect. It's just a disconnect. They think that like like the pagans and the witches have like the final say so on this stuff, just because they have certain names for it. And in the scriptures, there's certain names for it too. And I do you know, that's why I was talking about the wordplay.
Mm-hmm.
I think we're talking about the same thing, whether we're talking about meditation or we're talking about prayer.
Mm-hmm.
I think that they go hand in hand. I think that prayer is us talking to God, and meditation is when God talks to us, or we can sit down and be quiet. I mean, that's a conversation.
Mm-hmm.
Who would go into a conversation with God or with a friend or anybody? You talk, and then you leave. Have you ever had that? Has anybody ever called you and talked for like 5 minutes? All right, bro, gotta go. Love you, man. And hang up. Be like,
Yep.
dude, 5 minutes, and I just said hello, and then they
Right.
hang up and leave. And that's how a lot of people's prayer lives are, you know. And there's, you know, this got to change, man. It's a communion
Sure.
with God, with the spirit realm, and the Holy Ghost and the angels and all of these other beings that are dwelling in the realms, and spirits of joy and love and peace and all of that stuff, man.
Sure. Yeah. Have you had any negative experiences in I say tampering. I don't mean
well,
that negatively, but
yeah.
getting into this stuff.
Yeah. So now, where I'm at now, I haven't on this side, because I started out with the negative stuff.
Sure.
Like when I was a teenager, I definitely had some negative encounters, and that's kind of what made me who I am, and pushed me to Jesus, really, of getting into. So after I had those encounters of seeking God in 1998 and getting filled with the Holy Spirit and changing my life, I did the church thing. I was around all new people because we relocated, and all I knew was church for a summer.
Mm-hmm.
Went to school, got around the wrong friends, and they were like the first day of school. You know, I immediately went to the drug crowd and the potheads and stuff like that.
Sure.
And so from the first day of school, I just started backsliding gradually.
Mm-hmm.
And so I quit going to church and ended up being like adamantly against it, and got into Marilyn Manson and a lot of dark music and stuff. And
Mm-hmm.
so I got into the occult. I got into witchcraft and got some witchcraft books, and all of my friends were reading stuff, but I was wanting to do it. I was wanting to see if it was real,
Mm-hmm.
because I seen that God was real. Right. So if God's real, maybe this other stuff's real too. If having these encounters and watching scary movies and supernatural thrillers
Yeah.
my whole life, I want it to be real. Is it real? And it would almost be a letdown if it's not real. Right.
Yeah.
That's how I felt. And reading books and stuff in high school, and started to do little seances and stuff, and got involved with a warlock who would have parties at his house on the weekends. And he was an older dude, and he would just open up his house for people to come over and hang out and smoke and drink, all the teenagers. And
Sure.
but we would hang out till like 2, 3 in the morning, 5 in the morning, whatever, all night.
Mm-hmm.
And I would just pick his brain about the craft, witchcraft, and the books and spells, and is it real? Tell me your stories. What have you seen? And I was just hungry for it.
Right.
And I had somebody there who was telling me, and he had all this stuff in his house, and it was real, man. And I ended up getting to a place where, and this is fast forwarding, but I moved out of town into another state. I was living in Louisiana, and I was coming down for a weekend to hang out with my girlfriend and my cousins and some friends. And I spent the night with a couple friends. One night I stayed with a friend, and I stole a bunch of stuff from him.
Mm-hmm.
The next night I went to stay with another friend. I stole a bunch of stuff from him. And then the third night, my mom was supposed to come back to pick me up from Louisiana. I was in Alabama, supposed to come pick me up like Sunday night. She never showed. So I got this big duffel bag full of stuff that I stole from all my friends.
Yeah.
So I had to stay with another friend because my mama had car problems. She couldn't come get me. So I was still stealing stuff. I had a huge duffel bag full
Sure.
of CDs and T-shirts and video games. I was a teenager.
Mm-hmm.
So I put it in a friend's closet and forgot about it. And when my mom was going to come get me, I'll just run over to his house, grab my bag, see y'all later, and leave. Well, we're hanging out at the warlock's house, and he start formulating a party. All these people are showing up, and people are starting to drink and smoke and stuff. And we're sitting down on the couch, and the day before, I stole some stuff from the warlock. I stole some video games. It was a Dungeons and Dragons video game, to be exact. And we're sitting on the couch, and one of my friends walked through the front door, and he looks at me, and then he has the Dungeons and Dragons video game that was in the duffel bag, and he hands it to the warlock.
Oh, jeez.
And they look around, and there's a bunch of people there this night who I'd never seen before, and they were older dudes, all wearing all black, long hair, and they look around and say, okay. And I got scared because these guys were also in gang involvement as well. They were in Insane Gangster Disciples, and they were really deep into it, where they like read the Bible upside down, and they made them like memorize crazy theology and stuff. It was real wicked stuff. But they got up one at a time and started walking to the back of the house. I thought that they were going to go get a baseball bat or something and beat the shit out of me.
Yeah.
You know, me and my friend and my cousin who was with me. So I look at him and said, bro, we got to go right now. He said, what? They're fixing to smoke a joint. There's all these girls getting here. I said, dude, we got to go right now. We got to go. What, man? Dude, we just got here. I said, bro, we got to go. They found all the stuff. He said, what? So we get up, we walk outside. I said, bro, we got to get out of here, dude. We're gonna have to fight, man. And there's no way we can fight those guys.
Right.
But so there was a guy out there in his car talking to all these girls around his car. We said, hey, bro, can you give us a ride down the road? I need a ride. He said, sure, man. We jumped in his car. He gave us a ride down the road. We were going to go stay in my girlfriend's treehouse. She was still living with her parents. And we were because we slept in there one night. We ended up staying like 4 or 5 days there when we was only supposed to stay 3 days. So he drops us off down the road. We start walking to her treehouse, but we stop because we see a light in the yard, and we thought it was her dad walking back and forth through the yard with a flashlight. And so we're hiding by the tree line, and we're waiting for him to go back inside so that we can make a dart to the treehouse and spend the night. So we're waiting by the tree line, and the light never goes away. It's just hovering back and forth through the yard. To this day, I don't think it was him because it stayed there for like 45 minutes, almost mesmerizing us, floating through the yard. And for some reason, I thought it was him with a flashlight.
You thought it was the warlock or the dad?
No, I thought it was her dad outside with a flashlight. So we go around the edge of the tree line because we're trying to kind of hiding in the bushes, and it opens up to an open field. So we go around to the field, and we're about to get ready to run. It's getting dark, and all of a sudden, this big figure appeared. The best way I can describe it, it looked like an 8-foot tall camel. It appeared out of thin air. It was black as the darkest night. It ran past me and my cousin, screamed, knocked both of us down, and disappeared on the other side. And we got freaked out. We knocked down to the ground. We got up and we ran as fast as we could to the tree house. And from that moment on, like a bunch of weird, eerie stuff started to happen. And come to find out, they went back there and put a spell on us or whatever. They had a protective spell on his belongings that if anybody stole anything, that the spirits would go and get the belongings and bring it back. And so all this weird, crazy, bad stuff started happening to me. And you would think that I would have learned my lesson, but it did the opposite. Like
Did you do it again?
Okay,
Did you really do it again?
This stuff is real. Like it's real now. Maybe if I get good enough, maybe I can do that. Maybe I can summon an elemental spirit, is what it's called, an elemental spirit. And maybe I can do that and summon it on people or have a guardian or whatever and communicate with it and stuff. So I got even deeper into the occult, into witchcraft. And so I got really deep and I started to go crazy, man. I started to hear voices and see spirits in my house that nobody else can see. And I would be sucked in and out of trances and like just watching television. And they would suck me into these portals, and everything would be different colors, and I'd see shapes moving around, and I'd turn pale and my heart would start racing, and I'd get cold, and I'd start crying because I couldn't stop it. Yeah. And I couldn't understand what they were saying, and I would come out of it. And so that started happening 2-3 times, and then I got real sick, coughing up blood, and I was going schizophrenic, couldn't look nobody in the face. We'd go out to eat and go to McDonald's and try to order food. I couldn't look the people in the eye to order my food from them. So I had to whisper in my girlfriend's ear, I want a number 3, you know? And so I knew, man. So after having this awesome encounter with Jesus at these prayer meetings and walking with Christ for, a couple months and having my life totally turned upside down, it had been like 2 years later. This was in 2000 now. I just was reminiscing of how peaceful and how blissful I used to be. And I would be at home watching TBN. I'd turn on TBN and they'd be like, oh, that's fake. That's fake. And I'm like, no, that's real, y'all. Sure. Seeing people crying in the Holy Spirit and God and stuff, man. And I would long for that because I was just in a miserable place and hearing voices and stuff. And I finally hit rock bottom, called a bunch of churches in the phone book, asking them if somebody can come pray with me. I just left messages saying, hey, my name's Derek. I think I got demons. If somebody can come pray with me, And finally, I called like 15 churches. One church called me back. The pastor came out and prayed with us and started to pick us up and bring us to church and Bible studies and stuff like that. And gave my heart back to the Lord in September 7th of 2000. And so from 2000 now, it's been my journey where I've been at. So
awesome.
That's the darkness where I've come from, right? All that negative. I know it's real and it is real. So there is precautions and people really should take precautions. I approach all of this stuff that I'm talking about now. So it's almost like, okay, you went back to where you came from. You're talking about the out of body experiences, trance states, all of this stuff, ayahuasca, mushrooms, stuff like that, right? So you're going back to it and you're promoting it and stuff. Everything that we do now is, and I say we, there's a lot of people waking up, and there's a lot of Christians, man, who are interested, who have had encounters, and they have nobody to talk to.
Yeah.
And so I'm myself available through my music and through my podcast. I'm getting flooded in my inbox with people who are like, I believe what you're saying. I've had the same encounters. I have nobody to talk to.
Sure.
Please call me. And it's insane, man. So it's just being authentic is kind of where we are now, and just being like, and you should use precaution, but for me to act like, because I come from the churches where you gotta act like you have to wear a mask.
Right.
When you go to church Sunday morning, say, hey brother, how you doing?
I did too.
Brother, I'm blessed.
I get you.
I'm blessed. I'm blessed, highly favored, man.
Yep.
God is good. We can't show up and say, brother, I don't even know if I believe in God no more.
Right.
I'm doubting my faith. My marriage is on the rocks. Can you guys help me? You want to say that,
right?
But you can't. Brother, I'm good. And you're hoping that you're going to get help. You're hoping that God shows up and moves in your life and stuff. So, and that's okay. And we're just, right now, it's really sexy to be authentic, whatever it is.
Absolutely.
I don't care what it is. Be yourself and be free in that and make a living being yourself and doing what you love to do, what God put you here to do. And whatever that is, whatever it may look like, you don't need anybody's approval. And that's kind of where I am, man. And it's working. It's insane. I don't really know what I'm doing right.
Sure.
God's blessing it. And it really, it's a journey, man, but it's awesome, man.
That's awesome, man. Really heavy stuff, really powerful. For sure. And I think that, your bad experiences, your downtime, that is like possibly the most important part of your story right now, because people who are out there saying this stuff that you're doing that you consider a spiritual act of worship, they're saying that it is evil, it is witchcraft, it is this, and you are one of the few that has the ability to say it's not, because I did that. Yeah. I've been there and I know what that is, and this is not that.
Exactly,
so,
man.
That's very cool. Very awesome.
Yeah. And you have to have patience and grace with people, because it does appear to be evil. The scripture says stay away from the appearance of evil,
right.
But it's just because there's a disconnect there. Like all of my studying and I've been into a lot of groups. I've studied under a lot of groups, and the internet's a weird place. There's so many people, whatever you believe, you can find somebody that has a church and promotes that. So, but my goal was to find a Christianity, find a spirituality that the disciples had and that Jesus had and the prophets had. Like, what did they do? Mm-hmm. And that led me down a lot of roads, like getting into Messianic Judaism and not doing Christmas, not doing Easter, because it's all pagan and everything is pagan and it's not of God, and you're worshiping other gods. And we got really big into that for years. And I was on the front lines and handing out pamphlets at churches about how Christmas is demonic and don't let your kids bow down before the idol of the Christmas tree. Mm-hmm. And I've done that. So I've kind of been around the block when it comes to all that stuff, and it's led me here. This is where I am now,
Absolutely.
All of that stuff.
Very cool. Hey, Dan Smots here. I'm taking a second to interrupt myself talking to talk about myself because, I don't get paid a penny for the hours and hours that I put into creating this show for you guys in your greedy little ears, and I've got a family to feed. To make that happen, I run my own media business called Goulash Media. If you have a need in anything from video production to graphic design to audio production and beyond, you can get it all for a painfully fair price at Goulash Media. In video, I do weddings, music videos, commercials, pageants, plays, etc., etc., etc. For design, I do photo editing, album art, logos, branding, business cards, merchandise, you name it. For audio, I do engineering, production, editing, jingles, and, well, podcasts. So if you've got a media need of any kind, or if you'd just like to give a little something back and help keep my children fed, check out all the endless options at my website, goulashmedia.net. That's goulash, Goulash, media.net, where we cater to the little guy with the big vision. Okay. Let's talk about, you brought up psychedelics a couple times now. I mean, do you use or encourage what most consider like mind-altering substances, like cannabis, LSD, mushrooms, DMT, ayahuasca, that type of thing?
Yeah. When you get into a lot of the psychedelic stuff, and the more and more research you do, you find out that everything is alive, everything is moving, everything is vibrating. There's a spirit, a spiritual force, an intelligence behind everything, even if it's God or Mother Earth or whatever. There's an intelligence behind everything. Everything's moving in unity, and everything works together. And so when it comes to the plant-based medicines, which people call psychedelics, I call them sacraments or medicines. Sure. I don't encourage it for party drugs, to do it for fun. But they are fun. They can be fun, or they can be scary, right?
Sure.
So that's a warning, because I mean, we have friends who do it, and because it's fun, they want to do it every chance they get. Right. But I don't encourage anybody to do anything. But because there's an intelligence behind it, my disclaimer is that if it calls you, it calls you, and if it calls you, you have no choice but to do it. And I think a lot of people can resonate with that, who have done it or who do participate in plant medicines, is that they felt like it called them. Podcast. Man, hours and hours and hours of podcasts about people who have done psychedelics, and most of them were from the Joe Rogan podcast. Right. Joe Rogan and Aubrey Marcus and Amber Lyon and the Vice documentaries with Hamilton and all that stuff. So just listening to hours of that stuff, and priding myself on the fact that I didn't need psychedelics to find the trance state, to go into these higher states of consciousness, that you could do them through breathing, through meditation, through fasting, through long hours of prayer. Like there's all of this stuff naturally that you can do. Kundalini yoga, all of this stuff that you don't have to put anything outside of your body to enter and access those states. And I prided myself on that, but it was still something that I had friends who were going through it, and we would have conversations, and I would pick their brain, and it was something that eventually just started to call me. And because as a Christian and someone who has been in a realm where I had demons trying to take my mind from me, and I did not want to go back to a place like that. There was no way I wanted to eat a mushroom and go to a place for 8 hours where demons were trying to get back in my body, or say, okay, we're here, we're back, this type of deal. So there was a fear going there. And so, but it was something that called me. More and more research, and it's like, you know what, I want to try it. I think this is something I should do. And just all the research and seeing all the positive research that psilocybin mushrooms were doing for people coming into belief in God, people who are atheists who have never tried mushrooms or ayahuasca, and they had this encounter, and their lives are changed. They kick heroin, opiate addiction, cigarette addiction. They lose their fear of death because they feel like they go to a place where you go when you die. Right. And we're hearing countless stories about cancer patients who are on their deathbed, and they administered them psilocybin, and they're okay with it now. They're not scared that their soul's going to be ripped out of their body and cast into eternity and stuff. Right. And so it's a medicine, it's a teacher, all all indigenous tribes before us, our ancestors all did it,
Hmm.
as like a coming of age ceremony. Like when you turned, whether it was 12, 13, 18, whatever the case is, you had, okay, it's time to become a man. We're taking you out to the rainforest. You're going to lick this frog. You're going to do this. You're going to do that. You're going to
Hmm.
eat this. You're going to eat this handful of fire ants. And we're gonna see if you're a man. And and that's what it did. And I had friends who did that, little kids. Like I remember being in elementary school, and a friend of mine was a Native American, and his dad and uncles and everybody, they checked him out of school for a week, where he had to go like on a pilgrimage, on a journey with the Native Americans, and he was like 10 years old,
Hmm.
and he come back and he was like sunburned, and he would just had these stories and stuff. I don't know if they made him eat psychedelics, but remember that there's still some people who preserve that, and those people who do, I'm just in love with the culture that it's still there. It may be barely hanging on, but
Hmm.
it's still there. Like I have Native American in me, Porch Creek Indian, and I'm just infatuated with the past and the people that they were, and the culture and how it's being erased. And now we're given pharmaceuticals, and if you ADHD and all of this stuff that they are diagnosing these kids with, who are just special instead of catering to it. I know
Right.
that's a segue into something totally different, but
Sure.
yeah, I don't promote it. I don't encourage it or tell anyone, dude, you should do it. I mean, I try not to, but if it calls you, man, then you have to do it, and that's just how it is.
Okay. Yeah, and you brought up Joe Rogan. I know he talks about DMT all the time, and he's all about it. But he's still an atheist. So, I mean, that kind of raises the question: is it a God thing, or is it just a a heightening, like an
I
amplifying
wouldn't,
what you already believe type
yeah,
thing?
I wouldn't say that Joe Rogan is an atheist, because he always talks about like going into those realms and talking about how something created this,
Sure.
like something. Yeah, so I think there's countless episodes I've heard where he said you're in touch with a creator. He doesn't call it God. He doesn't call it the man with the beard in the sky. He doesn't believe that narrative,
Right.
but he believes that something created this. Doesn't know what it is. I don't think any of us do, but I think he when he goes through, he's in touch with something greater
Sure.
than himself. And so I'll say that. No, he's not definitely not a Christian and doesn't believe that.
Sure. Yeah,
He's
I
very
suppose I use
condescending.
that term a little loosely.
Yeah, he's
Um,
very condescending to Christians
right.
and things. He definitely so.
Yeah. Now, do you know people who are like people who do this type of thing who don't believe in a spiritual realm, or just think that it's a fun trip to go on?
I don't really. I'm sure there's. I don't particularly. I mean,
Okay.
most people I associate with come from uh, a faith background.
Hmm.
You know what I'm saying? Whether they're a Christian background or were Christian and they've left that, but I still encourage them to kind of hold on to the foundational things that they learned and
Hmm.
about Christ and about the scriptures and the Bible and things like that. So the majority of people who I'm affiliated with, and God is all throughout my music, so they can't really. And
Sure.
I catch flack even in the spiritual community for being a Christian, and
Hmm.
you know what I'm saying, and talking about Jesus. So because most people in the spiritual community and spiritual hip hop anyway, they they left Christianity, or it looks too weak to them, and most of them
Right.
are like into Hinduism or Islam, or for that matter, in a spiritual sect of Islam. So for me to talking about Jesus,
Hmm.
in a hip hop song and not be a corny Christian rapper, there's a certain way that you have to approach it. But everybody, I don't talk to a lot of atheists. Most
Sure.
people, they're not at the beginning of their journey when I meet them, for the most part. I don't try to convince anybody anymore. That's one thing that I've kind of I feel like I graduated from, because I was always striving to convince people that I was that what I'm saying, my way was the way.
Hmm.
You need to convert to my belief, no matter what it is, whether it's about eating pork or Jesus is the only way or whatever the case. And that was just always this combative thing for me, that I had to win every conversation. So now it's like I don't have to anymore. Like I just when I meet people, I just love them where they are. I try to see where I can help them, if help them, or where they can help me or teach me, or whatever the case is. It's kind of vice versa versus coming out of the combative Christianity, and I was really big into it with theology and debating people and losing friends over it and stuff like that too, on both sides, and that's really disgusting to me now. It really turns my stomach to be in those realms where people would, you know what I'm saying, demonize you for what you believe or what you don't believe, for that matter.
Right. Yeah, absolutely. I mean, for me personally, it's all, I know for a fact that I'm not interpreting most things correctly in life. So for me to judge somebody else for interpreting something differently is just, makes no sense.
But if you're trying to build a following, a cult following in a church, you can't say that. Like, you have to have everything figured out. Right. You say, hey, have you ever heard of this? Oh, yeah, that's demonic. That's where the demonic thing comes from. Right. Hey, TruthSeekah talks about astral travel. Yep, it's demonic. or TruthSeekah talks about waking up and spirits being in a room conversating with him. That's demonic. It's like, dude, there's instances in the scripture.
That never happened in the Bible, right?
Yeah, man, come on. There's some awesome stuff in there. I encourage people to read that thing, man.
Yeah.
You know?
Now, for you, what is like your typical, regular, like personal meditation process, or is there something that you would recommend other people do to check out this stuff?
What I do is I just try to clear out my mind. I just try to, because that's hard. It's a process. You get better at it. Like I said, the third eye is a muscle. If you don't use it, it'll atrophy. But eventually, you get good at it. It becomes easier to go into those realms. You know what to look for. You know what thoughts you need to push out, and what thoughts are you need to kind of entertain and things like that. So I try to get everything out of my mind. Music always helps, as far as like soft music. Something that I didn't know early on is about conscious connected breathing and holotropic breathing, is focusing on the breath. And how letting every breath be connected. So if you can focus on your breathing and throw all the thoughts out that are coming through, and just focus on the void in front of you, the blackness in front of you, and then you think about washing clothes, and then you think about playing the video game. I mean, it's the stuff that comes in my head, man. And so I have to get all those thoughts out, and then once I'm able to get there, then things start happening, man. I start seeing visions, I see lights, and I think it's different for everybody, but people, because it's kind of hard to actually know what goes on when someone closes their eyes, what goes on in their head. But for me, that's what happens. I try to focus on the darkness, and then once I kick everything out for a certain amount of time, things get kind of squirrely and get weird and get fun and interesting. And there's just a lot of stuff comes, and some of it's hard to grasp, you know. So they say it's almost like coming out of a lucid dream. You need to kind of write this stuff down, because it's so slippery when you come back, you know. Yeah, for sure. So do you use brain enhancers or psychedelics or anything like that on a regular basis too, or? No, I wouldn't say, definitely not on a regular basis. When you do a psychedelic, as far as like a mushroom, psilocybin mushrooms, or the golden teachers are some awesome plant teachers, but I mean, they're going to teach you stuff, you know. And it's not about just having this awesome traveling space or whatever. But that happens, and that's beautiful and fun, but it's deeper than that, right? You learn stuff about your life. You overcome the fear of dying, get in tune with the ancestral spirits. You feel like people are watching over you. You feel like angels are watching over you, communicating with you. Like it gets really deep, and there's so much that happens within that window of however many hours. It really upsets me when my friends, when we do that and they don't honor it and they want to do it. Dude, we're doing this again next weekend. It's like, dude, it's going to be a couple months, bro. Sure. It's going to be a couple months. You have to process all of this information. So as far as doing like a psychedelic like that, I've only done them a couple times, right? Sure. And I'm still processing the information, and it's been profound information. It's been really, really deep stuff about your life, about your goals, about your dreams, on how to achieve them. Quit worrying so much. Like all of the stuff that God would tell you if you sat down and looked face to face with God. Sure. Hey, man, you worrying about this? Stop worrying. Dude, it don't matter. I got you, man. I got you. It's going to be okay. In fact, let me show you how to do it. Sure. Do you want to know how to do it? Yeah, God, teach me. And I honest to God, this is exactly what it is. But it's to me, I've coined the term, and the golden teachers is a strand. And I have a song called The Golden Teachers, and it feels like an angelic presence that loves you, that's watching over you, has been here since the beginning. and they're communicating with you, man. And God speaks through his angels, and it's been a beautiful encounter. But those realms are weird. It does feel weird. There's no time. Time doesn't exist there. It can be scary, and it's what causes a bad trip, or you letting different thoughts that, if a weird thought comes in that you don't need to entertain, kick it out. I mean, the scriptures teach us to do that anyway, right? Any thought that exalts itself against the knowledge of God, any crazy thoughts coming through, kick it to the curb, especially in a vulnerable place like that, right?
Sure.
So, yeah, so it's not an everyday thing at all. But I have started using Hape, which is a shamanic snuff. I've been using that a little bit too. It helps you get grounded and get connected really, really fast. But I'd say focus on the breathing and stuff like that. The whole holotropic breathing, conscious connected breathing. There's people who teach you how to do it. I got some friends who are really big into it, and there's people who can achieve those states. It's not the exact same. I'd love to say that they were, but they're not. They're not the psilocybin encounters, right? I'd love to say they were, but they're not. But all of it's important. Every single bit of it's important. If you're just doing one thing and you feel like you've got the corner on the market, it's not it.
Right.
It's a little bit of all of it, and you think you should be open to it. And that goes for everything in life. Your religion, your doctrine, what you believe, that you have everything figured out and stuff like that. And then you are confronted with some information and that totally shows otherwise, but you refuse to believe it,
right,
because you were taught this way. And that's a good place though, because that's where awakening happens. People start questioning the religion of their fathers and what they've been told, and that opens up to even broader conversation.
Absolutely. That's what the show's all about. So how far have you gone as far as strength of the chemical or the plant? Or have you ever gone to like the extent of like ayahuasca or anything like that?
No, but I'll say that after hearing all the testimonies and hearing people's stories about doing it, and you hear about ayahuasca, and then you hear about mushrooms and stuff. And so the first time I did the mushrooms, it was a low dose. I think I did 2.5 grams, and we did them in a sensory deprivation tank.
Oh.
And had a cool encounter, man. But it made you just more grounded, more in tune, more sensitive. And then it was that very introspective where you're just looking at your life. You're combing through your life, but you're doing it with God. It's not like, oh man, I'm miserable. It's like, this is what I want to do, and this is what I want to be in the future. And God's like, you already are that. That those that's already inside of you. I'm going to show you how to bring it out, and I'm going to teach you. Don't worry. Like I'm swear to you, that's exactly what was going on. It's beautiful. But so the first time was like that, and I closed my eyes and I would see the shapes and the gears and stuff, and it was fun. Just real philosophical about your life and about your friends and stuff. And then the second time we did it, I did the hero dose, which was like over 5 grams that I did, and I thought it was going to be the same thing. And I was going on podcasts giving lectures about the psychedelic experience. I was giving lectures about the psychedelic experience after 2.5 grams,
right?
And like an expert. And then I put it all in my music, and I'm working on songs about it. And then we go and do this hero dose journey, and then that's when I thought it was going to be the same thing. I'm like, hey guys, just let it take you, and whatever, you're going to be introspective and stuff. And then we do it, we're laughing, and then we're waiting for it to kick in. Then it starts kicking in. Everybody's like, okay. A lot of us, it was their first time. So, okay. So we get up and walk outside, looking around. Palms are starting to sweat. You're like, okay, this is, have I gone, is it, or have we gone too far? Can we turn back now? Right. Like, no, you can't turn back now. And then I start throwing up. I just start throwing up. And that happens to a lot of people. Start throwing up. And I looked in front of me, and I just seen this webbing, this green webbing of connectedness of nature. It was the trees, and everything was connected. And I was like, whoa, this is weird. I need to go back inside. And I go walking back inside, and it scared me because I almost felt like I was dying a little bit. And the fear was there. If I call the cops, can they help us?
Right.
Like, should I call the cops?
Right.
What's happening? What's going on? Because the last time I did it, this didn't happen. I sit down on the couch, and I feel like it's trying to take me, like something's trying to take my spirit out of my body or something. And I look at my friend who's really big into it, and he's done a lot of journeys. And I tell him, I say, bro, he's like, you all right, man? I said, I don't know what's happening, bro. He said, man, just let it take you. Just let it take you, bro. Calm down, relax, let it take you. And I was like, you know what? sounds like a good idea. Let me just quit fighting it because I'm fighting it. It's trying to
Right.
pull you and be like, no, no, wait, no. You're trying to snap yourself back to stay awake, you know?
Hmm.
I was like, okay, let it take me. So I sat down. I was like, all right. And then, whew, I just went, man. Went into this weird astral realm and
Hmm.
seen all the beautiful geometric shapes and like a roller coaster. And it was weird because everybody there was seeing the same thing. And then we would snap too. We'd look at each other and we'd say, "What was that, bro? What's going on?" Because
Yeah.
I thought I knew. And I looked at my buddy and I was like, "Bro, I thought I knew, man." I said, "I'm sorry, bro. I thought I knew." He's laughing. And then we're
So you guys
like,
were kind of witnessing the same things in the same
yeah,
room? Wow.
that's the weird thing because we're sitting
Wow.
on the couch and you could feel it coming again because it comes in waves, right? And so we came to and we're looking around. We're like, all right, guys, here it comes again. We can feel it. Here it
Wow.
comes. And it was like a roller coaster. Click, 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 click. Here it comes. Hold on. And we just go into it for maybe felt like 2 or 3 minutes. I don't know how long it was. And we'd come back and we look at each other. What the heck, man?
Mm.
And you're trying to describe it. You're in the state and you come to and you're like, there's these colors, man. There's these because you're looking at them, you're seeing them, and it's
Right.
beautiful. And you're trying to describe it, but you sound like a crazy person. There's this color, man, and it's alive, man. It's love, bro. And then just we're laughing because you can't. You're
Right.
not supposed to do that because you can't. And so yeah, that was the deep part. And so why I tie that in with the ayahuasca is that I didn't like that was like an ayahuasca encounter
Sure.
of going to the place you go when you die,
Hmm.
and that's where we went. And
How many lives do you think you ruined by going on the podcast and talking about it as an expert after 2.5 grams? And then everybody goes out and tries it. And they're like,
well,
that
the
guy
same,
was
as long
wrong.
as they
He
do
was
that
dead
much,
wrong.
as much as I did, they'll be okay.
Yeah.
No, that didn't talk about the hero dose, but
Sure.
it all works out in the end, and it's different for everybody though. Everybody gets something different out of it too, I
Sure.
think. And but yeah, it was a life changing encounter, man. And it's been I've only done them a couple times. I mean, I've did the microdose a couple times here and there. It's just where you eat just like a half a gram or a gram or something or whatever. But
Hmm.
and it's more of just a mellow feeling. Like there's people who do that every day. They microdose before work, and it makes them more mellow, more connected, and
Sure.
easygoing, more philosophical. Just in a little small dosage. I've done them before podcasts. So
Sure. Yeah. Very cool. All right, awesome. And let's talk a little bit more about your music. I know we touched on it, and then we got down the crazy rabbit hole. And I've got some more stuff to pick your brain on in the bonus hour. But let's talk about your new album. You've got it's out now, right? The 333.
yeah, 333. That it's been out for a couple years now,
Okay,
and yeah, it came out in the end of mid 2015,
my
and
bad.
so. Yeah. No, that's the latest thing I'm promoting, though. I'm still
Sure.
promoting it. There's so many people who haven't heard it. And so that's the thing what's cool about what I'm doing now versus what I was doing back in the day is like the stuff's dated back in the day,
Sure.
right? And the style of music that we're doing now, I feel like it has longevity. I feel like this is something now that I put out an album in 2012, which was Awaken the Fire. Then there was Spiritual Alchemy, and then 333. And those are the three spiritual esoteric albums that I did. And I feel comfortable showing those tracks to this day. I mean, it came out in
Nice.
2012 and I still feel comfortable doing it.
It's good
And
stuff, man. It holds up for sure. I checked it out today. It's really good.
it's not dated, man. And I was thinking like, people talk about putting out singles now and making a lot of money off of singles.
Hmm.
But all that stuff, like who's listening to Laffy Taffy? Do you remember? Take that Laffy Taffy. No, we're not listening to that.
Dude, I jam that song every day. What are you talking
Those
about?
those people made a lot of money on that stuff, but even something more relevant. Who's listening to Panda?
Right.
Something that was just a couple months ago.
Flash in the
Who's
pan.
listening to Panda? You
Yeah.
know?
Absolutely.
And so it's on to the next one, and nobody's not going to go dig that up.
Sure.
So I think it's cool that. And the people I listen to, I think, have longevity. I came up listening to Bone Thugs and Harmony,
Mhm.
and I listen to that. I listen to them to this day stylistically and some of the stuff they're putting in their music, and it just holds up, man. It's just totally different.
Sure.
It's not superficial. It's not cars and girls, right? You know.
Absolutely. Now, the title 333. What is the meaning behind that? I'm sure it has something.
Yeah, it's got
for
a
you.
couple different meanings. First of all, I would say the number 333 is when people are starting to wake up, what they call it, and having an awakening and starting to see things for reality for what it really is, or the matrix and things. You start seeing numbers. You see what's called synchronicities, and it says numbers that repeat themselves. It's memes that repeat themselves, sayings over and over. And a lot of times it's 1111, 222, 333, 444. And so 333 represents angelic contact of the angels. When you keep seeing it over and over, the angels trying to contact you. So the angels are trying to show you something. So it represents angelic contact, and that's a big part of my music, of contacting the other realm and just coexisting with the other realm as well. But then in the scriptural standpoint, Jeremiah 33:3, which basically says, call unto me, I will answer you, I will show you great and mighty things that you do not know and you cannot find out. And that's kind of been the staple for my Christian walk, is just letting God teach me, right? And just saying, and that's how beautiful it is that God can show you things that he's never shown anybody else. And that's weird to fathom, because like we're in the information age and everything's just a regurgitation of what's already out. But there's stuff that people have never encountered, man, in the universe and in the scriptures and what the scriptures mean and stuff like that. So there's been that element to it about just my life and my ministry in general, man, of just letting God teach me in the secret place and then bringing it out into the open. You know, I don't know if that was always smart, talking freely about some of this delicate stuff, so freely. And that was one thing I wanted to touch on that I did get when I went and did the hero dose. I was I felt like those angels were there, and I felt like they checked me. So right before it got really deep, they called my name, and it was just, I call it the golden teachers, man. And it said, are you TruthSeekah? Are you TruthSeekah?
Nice.
Is this you?
You even know your stage name.
Yeah, it's like, yeah, this is you. It's like, okay, you're the one. You're the expert, right? You're the one going around doing interviews, and you're putting this stuff in your music. It's cool. Gazing into heaven, traveling to the third heaven, communicating with angels. You talk about this in your music. Yeah, it's okay. We just want to make sure we got the right person.
Nice. We
got some stuff we want to show you, and it was like a check. Like this stuff is delicate, and I'm. Part of me, just throwing it out there as your pearls before swine. And part of me is like, maybe I was never supposed to talk about this stuff. Maybe it's secret for a reason. I mean, that's what the whole Illuminati and Masonic orders are built on, that it's so beautiful that we shouldn't share it with the world. Like you have to prove yourself that you're worthy to know this information, right? That's what they're founded on. And I feel like it should be available for everyone. Like if you seek it, then you should be able to find it, right? Isn't that what Christ said? So that's where I approached it. But it's like a check. It's like, okay, we just want to make sure we got the right one, because we got some things we got to show. You're really going to gaze into heaven now. You're really going to travel through the star systems like you talk about in your music. And I did. And it's like, we just want to make sure you still want to keep talking about this after it's done. And it was just like, it was something beautiful, man. But
cool.
It was it's nothing to play with. Spirituality, I mean, these concepts are fun. I paint them in an artistic light, but it really is nothing to play with on any side. Even Christianity is nothing to play with. Like, you're either in or you're out, man. Like, you have to be hot or cold. You can't be lukewarm. And there's so many warnings, even with that, man, that I'm studying right now about how people are like pretty much where I was on the other side, the delusional aspect. And people who awaken the Kundalini energy is what they call it. And some of those people go delusional, right? And these other energies. And so there's a warning. Don't deal with the Kundalini, because once you awaken it, once you open the third eye, you can't shut it. And if you don't do it right, it'll make you go crazy. And that's what's said about the Kundalini. But I bring to the table, not just me, but many other people, that the Kundalini and the Holy Spirit is the same exact thing. It's this prana, life force energy, even the Force that is from Star Wars. When I watch it, speaking about the Holy Spirit to me. I can't interpret it any other way. That's my worldview.
Sure.
And it's the same thing. The light and darkness. Choose what you're going to do with this force. Choose what you're going to do with this energy. And it's the same thing. And so while these people are given these warnings on the Kundalini side and on the third eye side, we have to now start giving the warnings on the Christian side. There's people who are having these Holy Ghost encounters in churches, falling out, shaking with fire going down their back. I had the encounter. It was beautiful. It is beautiful. But if you don't do the spiritual work, it can be harmful. You can't put your hand to the plow and turn back. It's dangerous for you. Even when it comes to the fact of casting out demons, where Jesus talks about it in Matthew 12 and Matthew 14, it goes into talking about when an evil spirit leaves, that he goes to dry places and he gets 7 other demons who are stronger than he was. And they come back to the same residence, and he comes back to take back over. But if the house is clean and swept clean and made anew, and someone else is dwelling there, which should be the Holy Spirit, then he goes somewhere else, right? And so there's a lot of people who are having these encounters in youth groups. They're getting demons casted out of them. They're getting filled with the Holy Spirit, but there's no warning. People don't think that it goes together. But I'm telling you, if someone who's been in the balance and can see both sides and judge righteously with it, it totally does. I have, just as there's all those crazy Kundalini people who are delusional now, I can name you even more church people, bro, who are delusional and they believe God told them to do this. God told them that Benny Hinn is their husband, like all kind of stuff, like crazy stuff.
Sure.
And they say it's the Holy Spirit. And there's churches and safe havens and places that would entertain this. And they'd say, okay, what else is the Lord telling you? And some people act on it, and it gets really weird and really kooky. And if it for something to be legit, for something to be true, it has to be a polarity. It has to be true on both sides. For this to be true, then the exact opposite has to be true as well. So for it to be good for one, it has to be good for the other. And I'm doing a study on it right now. I'm gonna be bringing some stuff to the table, but and so that's what the Christians say about the Kundalini. Don't mess with the Kundalini because you'll go crazy if you don't do it right. There's so many people. But why aren't you guys warning people in the churches, bro?
Sure.
Because we all know these people, man. If you've been in the charismatic circles for long enough, definitely there. When you're dealing with spirituality, it's nothing to play with. And I say all that to say that it's not to be played with, any of it. Not Jesus, not the Holy Ghost, none of it is to be played with.
Very good. I was trying to talk about your artwork, man, but
It is my artwork though, because
I love it. It's great.
The songs are about this stuff.
Absolutely, I love it. I love the passion. Love the stuff. So yeah, real quick before we wrap up here, I'm curious because I looked through some of your videos, your songs, and your website and stuff like that. All of your stuff is extremely well put together, like great visuals, great production, and so forth. Do you do all your own designs? Do you do your own beats and your own production, that type of thing, or do you outsource?
I do everything besides the beats.
Okay.
I don't make the beats. I have a couple different producers that I use.
Sure.
So they make the beats, but I record and I do all the visual stuff, all the graphic art, all of that stuff.
Very cool.
Yep.
Awesome.
I appreciate that. I appreciate the compliment too. Thank you.
Absolutely.
I work hard.
For sure. And do you got anything new you're working on? You got any new music in the works?
Yeah, definitely, man. Well, we just put out, I have a friend of mine who has a very similar journey. He goes by Watchman. We just put out his album. It's entitled The Ascension. It came out December 1st. So that's out. There's some cuts on there that I'm featured on. I mixed and mastered and recorded that entire album. It's very similar to what I'm doing. So there's some awesome tracks on there. I'm working on an album right now called Seer. A couple tracks deep on there. I say a couple tracks. I'm probably almost done with it, honestly. But it's going to be called Seer. It's going to come out early 2018. And to check out all my stuff, my discography, all of my work, I upload everything to Patreon. That's my full discography. And when I get done with the song, I upload it to Patreon. It's not available for the general public, but just for those who are supporting. So,
nice.
But other than that, you could just type in TruthSeekah anywhere and find anything on me. So I'm on all the social media platforms and stuff, website, podcast, all that good stuff.
Yeah, well, yeah, tell people like where they can find the podcast. Is the podcast is just called the TruthSeekah podcast, right?
Yeah, the TruthSeekah podcast. I went to a bunch of different names of not wanting to use my name as the podcast, of wanting to like. I've always just had wanting to include other people of like a collective. So I've always had names like I named it the Mythicist podcast, and that was one thing I was pushing. And then Encountering God, and then we had just a couple different names for it. I was like, you know what? I'm having to rebrand and spend money and graphic art and time and effort branding. It's just everything is TruthSeekah, man. So it's just the TruthSeekah podcast. Yep.
Awesome. Yeah. Any links that you got, send them to me, and I'll include them in the show notes for the show, so people can check that out. But yeah, man. Thanks for coming on. I hope that you are willing to stick around for a little bit of extra time. We can get into some even crazier stuff for
Let's go deep, man.
Absolutely. Well, thanks, man. I really appreciate it, and you're certainly welcome to come on whenever you want.
Thank you, brother. I appreciate you having me. Thank you.
Absolutely. Have a good one, man. Hey, guys. Thanks for sticking around to the end. I hope you enjoyed that conversation as much as I did. And I did enjoy it very much. As we mentioned in the discussion and at the beginning of the episode, I did record a full bonus hour with TruthSeekah where we dug into all sorts of things from aliens to Nephilim to nostalgic old Christian rock bands that we enjoyed. And it was just a really fun, laid-back conversation. So if you're interested in getting that, it will be posted within the next couple days in the Downers Club, which is our support group. As you know, you can get access to that for as little as $1 a month only by going to tsidpod.com/support and go join the forum at tsidpod.com/forum and go check out our merch and go like us on Facebook and go share us on Twitter and go to iTunes and subscribe and review the show. That is one of the better things. Actually, I should probably slow down and point that out. Please go leave us a nice review on iTunes. It is always extremely helpful in boosting our credibility and getting the numbers up, getting the name out there and all that. So if you could do that, I would greatly appreciate it. And Facebook is fb.com/the system is down. Our Twitter is at tsidpod. So be a dear and keep being as awesome as you guys are in getting the word out there, and just do it more. And I'll be back here next week with some more uncomfortable conversations for you. Until then, question everything and stay uncomfortable. Thanks.
Vibing on this global and coping with my emotions. Grab the scrolls and I unfold them. This copal is just too potent. Only time is my opponent. We live within the moment. I simply watch it slip away when it's just in the magic potion. Cite the word for my enchantment as the sacred portal opens. In the dark I sit broken, angelic being approaches. Giving a sigil as a token for the masses I've awoken. I'm praised for my devotion and leave the meeting with focus. Aquarian convergence, who carry a heavy burden. Connecting with God's servants and walking with 7 virgins. Prophecies emerging, reciting the sacred verses. As power in spoken word that reverses demonic curses. Teachings of Pythagoras, spirit rapture and capture us. Giving a second chance, Kundalini rising like Lazarus. Kabbalistic chanting and consciousness is expanding. Passive but demanding, revamping your understanding. Your way so much higher than mine. So much higher than mine. So much deeper than mine. So much deeper than mine. Marshal in the mystery and found within simplicity. The golden teacher speak to me the lessons of eternity. Wisdom from the elements. Tell me I am heaven sent. Revelation from creator. Walking my benevolence. 1,000-petal lotus. Earth, water, fire, air, ether, mind blowing. Energy is flowing as the third eye is open. Where we focus the intent is where the energy is going. Knowledge of the golden. We're pressed like a diamond in alchemy for refinement. Is seeking for hidden meaning. Revealing it when I find it. Get knowledge and understanding. I promise that few will follow and know that we're all connected like brothers with different mamas. Give homage to risen teachers and honor to fallen fathers. Learn the wisdom of the watchers while sitting in lotus posture. Exhale through the nostrils the smoke of the ayahuasca as we ride the back of dragons or ascendants of macabre. The study of Joseph Campbell, the meaning of Harry Potter. Brother, tell him to decipher the magic that is inside you.
Walking the fine line between pagan and Christian.
Your way so much higher than mine. So much higher than mine. So much deeper than mine. So much deeper than mine. Marshal in the mystery and found within simplicity. The golden teacher speak to me the lessons of eternity. Wisdom from the elements. Tell me I am heaven sent. Revelation from creator. Walking my benevolence.
asking is, how can a plant be a teacher? You go and find a member of that species, but different members have different potencies and different takes on the same kind of message. This gets to the teacher part. They use this term, plant teacher, and all plants have a plant teacher in them. Some people think that only the sacred plants do, right? Other shamans said, no, all plants do, just some of the spirits. They call them the mothers, the mother of the plant or the spirit or the teacher. Some are stronger. So that implies that every time we eat any plant, we're taking in that teacher.
I've been shining all around. Side, dreaming of it night. Really nothing to hide, feeling love on the rise, 'cause there's something divine in all I see. Won't you come and take me away? Fire travel highway of my spine. As we journey through the sands of time, the primate mind state will be left behind.
This has been a Goulash Media production. goulashmedia.net.
This concludes our broadcast day. Click.